Okay, all right. So I'm gonna give you some honest feedback. Are you ready for this? Most of the matchups this weekend are kinda terrible. And guess what? That's just the way that I like them, baby, because when I have no expectations for what's gonna happen, I always come away pretty impressed. Unless it's like Stoke versus West Brom. Then I immediately want those 90 minutes of my life back. But thankfully, that's not happening this weekend, so instead, we're gonna start with Huddersfield versus Manchester United in the FA Cup. Now, not only should United be concerned about this game because they got their asses handed to them earlier in the season the last time they traveled to Huddersfield, there also seems to be some legit trouble brewing with their record signing Paul POGBA and their inscrutable manager Jose Mourinho. Inscrutable. Did I use that right? I think I did. Because from what I understand, POGBA would rather play in a midfield where there are 3 central midfielders, so he has more freedom to roam around and be closer to the attack, and in my opinion, not have too many defensive responsibilities, which is a dream that all players want to have. Just like he did at Juventus, where he won the Golden Ball and helped them reach the finals of the Champions League, along with winning a ton of Scudettos. I don't know how many. How long was he there? Every single year he was there, he won, which is pretty awesome. Though it makes sense though, right? I mean, if you're gonna spend 89 million pounds on a player, then it's only right you play him in his preferred position. But Jose Mourinho and several ex-United players, and even the fans, feel like he should be able to excel in a midfield of 2 central midfielders and quit with the excuses. And maybe they have a point, because in the last 3 games, POGBA has been taken off in 2 of them, which they both lost, and he was benched in the other, which they won. And that's gotta hurt the wonderful enthusiasm of POGBA, who I believe needs to be happy to be in top form. But it's also gotta hurt Mourinho, because if the manager of the team can't get the face of the team to buy in, usually that means that the manager's days are numbered. And then there's also the case of Anthony Martial, who was doing very well out on the left and cutting in and doing his thing until Alexis Sanchez came along. So Martial moved out to the right to make way, and now he's struggling. And then, even though I'm not the biggest fan of this player, and I don't really feel like he's Manchester United quality, what's with not playing Luke Shaw? He's a traditional left back, he understands the position, and he would bring some balance to the team. It helps to have a left-sided player on the left side of the field. I mean, I appreciate Ashley Young and what he brings to the table and his versatility, but he's a right-winger midfielder by trade. So if you put him at left back, maybe you could do that for certain games against specific opponents, but it can't be your full-time solution. So it really feels like Mourinho has no clue what his best 11 is, and that's a problem. So with Huddersfield most likely sensing United's vulnerability at the moment, and because United also have to focus on traveling to Spain to play Sevilla midweek in the Champions League, and I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, United will not field their top 11 players. We all know this. However, if only by scheduling luck, that's going to give those players who haven't been playing a lot an opportunity to impress Mourinho, and I think they're going to be up for it. I think it's going to be a commanding performance, and they're going to win 3-1. And up next is the Borussia derby, Mönchengladbach versus Dortmund. Since that wacky and weird 3-way player swap between Chelsea, Arsenal, and Dortmund, it's the German club that is showing early signs that they perhaps got the better of the whole deal, because the player that they signed, Michy Batshuayi, has scored 5 goals in his first 3 games, which has helped the black and yellow win all 3 of those contests. Now in comparison, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Olivier Giroud have scored just 1 goal between them, and they've combined for 3 losses since they switched clubs. And that is not good. So you take Dortmund's current form and the unbelievable confidence that their new striker, the Batsman, is showing, and you add that to the fact that Mönchengladbach have lost 6 out of their last 8 games, despite their top players, Thorgan Hazard and Raphael, both having pretty good seasons for the club, and it just looks like there's only gonna be one team that's gonna win this game, and they wear black and yellow. So I'm going to say it's gonna be a barn burner, but that Dortmund's gonna win it 3-2. And next up, it's the Turin derby between Torino and Juventus. So more often than not, this would be an easy game to predict because it has to be one of the most one-sided rivalries in the world, which has already been proved twice this season, with Juve beating Torino 4-0 in the league back in August, and then they beat them again 2-0 in the Coppa Italia early last month. But Juve are fresh off of a disappointing 2-2 result at home against Tottenham in leg 1 of their Champions League matchup after being up 2-0. So I believe there's a really good possibility that a big letdown could be happening within the team after they bottled it in front of their home supporters. I mean, I would be pretty pissed. Like, how did we let that happen? And then you add into the fact that Torino have scored 10 goals in the last 5 games, which has helped them get 3 wins and 2 draws over that span. well, they got a little confidence. So I believe an upset is in the air, and Torino is going to nip this one 2-1. And now we head to Spain for Eibar versus Barcelona. When these two clubs met earlier in the season, Leo Messi was, unsurprisingly, the star of the show, scoring 4 goals in Barcelona's 6-1 win. But this time around, Barca is going to face a completely different Eibar team. Well, it's the same Eibar team. They're just in better form right now. You know what I mean. Because Eibar are currently 7th in the table and have lost just once in their last 12 La Liga games, which is a 1-0 loss to Atletico Madrid, which honestly, they shouldn't even really feel that bad about because everyone loses 1-0 to Atleti. So, in short, they are on fire, and they're playing this one at home in their little tiny 7,000-seat stadium, which has been a fortress for them this season. I think their last loss there was in October to a then very hot Celta Vigo, which means it's going to be a really tricky game for Barcelona for a number of reasons. One, the pressure is real. After notching their second straight league draw last weekend against Getafe, their lead at the top is only 7 points. And 2, they have to travel to London midweek to face Chelsea in the Champions League, so rotating the squad is a must to keep everyone fresh. So the challenge for Barca's manager Ernesto Valverde, who I have a ton of respect for, I think he's done a fabulous job, will be who he rotates and with whom. Like, who does he switch with? Because if any club wants to win multiple trophies in one season, you have to have a deep and talented bench. Does Barcelona have that? I don't know. So I'm going to say that this one ends 1-1, and then things are going to start to get a little dicey in the league as their lead gets cut down again. And finally, here's some other games I'll be keeping my eyes on this weekend. Like Marseille versus Bordeaux, because Marseille are trying to take full advantage of Lyon's dip in form by quietly pulling away from them in the race for the last Champions League spot in France. They're 4 points clear in 3rd place. They haven't lost a game in 2 months, and their midfield duo of Tovin and Sanson have combined for 22 league goals, which is 7 more than their 4 strikers combined. So if you guys have some time to watch Marseille during this current run, you should, because they're playing great. And then I'll be keeping these thingies on Ajax versus Zwolle, because as much as Ajax needs all 3 points to keep pace with league leaders PSV Eindhoven, who have a 7-point lead at the top, I'm more interested in which player on Ajax is going to get to 10 league goals first, because they have 4 players that are tied with 9. They got Lassie Shone, Davi Neres, Donny van de Beek, and Klaas van Huntelaar. Now, my money, if you're asking, is on 20-year-old Brazilian Davi Neres, because I feel like he's been playing the best out of all 4 of those players this season. Stamp it. And then, finally, I'll be spying on Veracruz versus Club America, and yes, I know it's only 7 games into this new season, but America have looked revitalized since it began by being the last unbeaten team in Liga MX with 4 wins and 3 draws, which has actually got to feel even sweeter since their biggest rivals Chivas Guadalajara are struggling big time this season. They're like, no mames to the nth degree. And with America's new signing, the very talented French attacker Jeremy Menez, finally looking comfortable at the heart of their attack after his surprise move from Europe to Mexico, America have been very enjoyable to watch these last few months, and you should watch them too. And all right, that is it. That is all I got, except for this. If you want to win an all-expenses-paid trip to the UK to see a Premier League game just like I did with my family recently, which was an awesome experience and something that I will never forget, go to the big vlog I just put out and check the description about how you can make that happen. And if you want to win some Warm Baller swag, pick the right score for which game? Let's say Eibar versus Barcelona. I think that one will be a tough one. And of course, have a good or bad weekend, everyone. Later.